presentation includes a complaint against an employee of the district, proper channels set out in district policy to seek resolution before bringing the matter to the board should be exhausted. The board shall not tolerate disruption of the meeting by members of the audience. If, after at least one warning from the presiding officer, any person who continues to disrupt the meeting by his or her words or actions, the presiding officer shall request assistance from law enforcement officials to have the person removed from the meeting. Is Jonathan Sines or Brian McAuliffe ready to speak?
Ms. Cantu, before we start with the first speaker, I'm going to go ahead and make a motion that we temporarily suspend board policy and allow for all citizens who have submitted a blue form to be allowed to speak this evening, thus extending time.
Moved by Mr. Arredondo and seconded by Ms. Halsey. Any discussion? All in favor? All opposed? 5-2. So, Brian McAuliffe, were you going to speak?
Yes.
Thank you. And would you state your address, please?
922 Lazy Lane, San Marcos, Texas. I wanted to address the board because I feel like an injustice is being done to a valuable member of our community. And all of y'all received an email from me about talking about getting back to basics, how important the traditional family is, one man, one woman married. I want to give you a little statistic that 44% of black children live in poverty, yet if those black children are lucky enough to be the child of a traditional family, one man, one woman, that only 8% of those children live in poverty. Now, some people may say that's racist to say, they may say it's hateful to say that, but the reality is those are the facts. And that's something that we need to look at. You as a school board are supposed to be teaching facts, not emotions that some people have. And the reality is, I looked at some signs when I was coming in here, and there were people that were against Naomi because she supports state law, which seems ridiculous because as an elected official, that's what you're supposed to do, is uphold the states and the local laws. Second of all, I saw a sign that said that they were against her because she tweeted out that a top psychiatrist said that transgender people have a mental disorder. Well, actually, the American Society of Psychiatry, they have come out and said the same. And even more important is the former head of surgery at Johns Hopkins, who actually pioneered transgender surgery. He actually came out and said he would no longer do that surgery because he realized that these people needed help with mental disorders, not a physical problem. And so when we see people that are protesting things that are facts, that their emotions, that they don't like it, then that's not a good reason to suspend or get rid of somebody that's on this board. I want to remind everybody, Naomi has worked very hard for this community for at least 10 years that I know of. And I really hope that y'all will take facts into considerations and not the emotions of some of the people that are here tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Caution them not to talk during the people's comments.
Hard to hear. Please do not talk when we have the speakers up here. From the other group, I was going to allow 2 1.5-minute speakers. Can you please come forward, the 2 people that were in that back room with me? And you'll go 1.5 minutes each.
You're testing my clock making stuff. I don't know how to reset the time.
Okay, then can you use your phone? Can you wait until we get we're having trouble resetting it.
Changing the process on me.
Ready? We're good? You may start.
Okay. My name is Alicia Guerrero. I'm a grad student, a teacher, a Hays County resident, a daughter of immigrants, and I'm here to proclaim my disapproval of this person in any committee. The reason for it is because I strongly agree that any leader, whether it be education or whatever, should in fact voice for the community, and I myself have not experienced that with this individual. I myself was bullied not that long ago, and it actually still continues. My father was arrested, given an immigration hold. Luckily, we liberated him, but however, we received backlash from this person saying that he's a criminal and all that, and I'm not going to go into an immigration debate, but I will say that emotionally I was hurt, I was traumatized, and it hurts me to see that there's other students in this county that are also undergoing the same experience. And so we should be asking ourselves, how do we help those students cope? How do we help them succeed in school? How do we give them the emotional support? But no, she goes off and publishes his bad doing, goes to the audacity of even looking up his criminal record, publishing it on social media. She even did this 2 weeks ago to a student in Texas State, but she published this person's voting record. I don't know what to say to that, other than I, an educator myself, strongly believe in the leaders, but I can't do that today.
Can you tell me where you live, please?
I live in Dripping Springs.
You live in Dripping Springs?
Yes.
The other half of the 3 minutes? State your name and where you live.
Yeah. My name is Christopher Hall. I live in, did you want my address too, or just? Okay. 11407 Jim Thorpe Lane, Austin, Texas. I grew up in San Marcos. I'm the son of Jennifer and Gilbert Cortez. I have, 6 siblings here as well. And I attended all San Marcos schools. Most recently, I graduated from Texas State. So I'm San Marcos through and through, always have been, always will be. Naomi Narvaez, and also I'm the co-founder of the XYZ Club on San Marcos campus. The comments that Naomi Narvaez has made about multiple groups that are in our community are just absolutely disgusting. And not only disgusting, easily provable false. As the last speaker said, transgender people are considered mentally ill, according to use like his words. But that very same organization recommends that you allow trans people to transition. Funny how he left that out. The fact is that getting online on a public forum, saying things that the XYZ Club is improper for kids, saying things like gay marriage leads to childhood rape and all of these different things is just offensive and just flat out wrong, easily provable wrong. And it does not represent the values, it doesn't represent the community that I grew up in.
I want to say to the audience that the board has received numerous emails, and we've all read them and taken them into account, and we appreciate everyone's interest in that particular topic. We're now going to move on to other agenda topics. We'll start with Christina Joy, wants to talk about GT funding.
I live at 249 Morning Miss Court, San Marcos, Texas, and I'm a parent and a volunteer, and I used to be a GT student, and I have 2 GT students that I'm parenting right now and a special needs student. We need the teachers. They're just not there. We're being shared between elementary schools, and I appreciate you guys addressing that in tonight's agenda. Also, the art teachers are being shared, and one of the key measures of success in future in academics is whether they've had exposure to arts when they're younger. That includes music and regular art graphic classes. Also, the music libraries, there aren't any. There needs to be a district music library where the different music teachers can purchase and get here, say, a small budget for each orchestra teacher, band teacher, choir teacher, to get 1 or 2 new pieces a year. Then you submit them together to the district library, and the next year They can choose from any of the old ones that any of the schools have done, plus they have their little bit of budget to get something new. That's going to save you guys so much. Right now, the directors are all taking money from their own budgets. Some of the schools have budgets, I think, but the majority of the music is coming from their own budgets. And the last thing I wanted to say is we're all here about support, and I did put on there that I wanted to talk about that other subject as well. I'll make it brief, though. Our purpose is support and non-discrimination, and I don't feel like the leadership has reflected that. I don't feel like all of our populations are being supported, whether it's the art population, the GT population, the LGBT population. We need to all be treated equally, fairly, and given the attention and support required.
Thank you. Lisa Garza, naming of the new school.
Ms. Cantu, I think you need to give somebody on the other side a minute to speak because we allowed her. I think we make it fair.
Okay. You may introduce yourself and state your address.
Yes, ma'am. My address is 1715 FM 1984 in Maxwell, Texas, and I am the proud daughter of Tomas Cuevas Jr., the late Tomas Cuevas Jr. This is my nephew, who's going to be up here to support me. So, good evening, first of all. I'm going to read off of what I've written because it's still very near and dear to my heart. Daddy has just, passed away. It was on February 7th, 2016. So I'd rather just read off of this so that I can just kind of keep my emotions where they need to be and address what I'd like for the community, what they've also expressed here. I'm here this evening to make a request on behalf of my deceased father. My dad was a giving man. For decades, he operated his business, Cuevas Produce, and used it as a platform to give back to the community. He donated produce to the schools of the San Marcos Consolidated Independent School District and to numerous church events, many people. He would donate money and produce to Christmas toy drives, to little leagues, just to anyone in need. He gave the tire off of his own vehicle for somebody who needed it, and Dad went without. He'd be calling Mom, and she'd be there. And basically, it spread beyond the borders of just San Marcos as a community. It went into Lily's Christmas Drive in Luling, in Lockhart, Texas. My dad always put other people before himself. That was his everyday way of life, striving to always help the next person and pay it forward until the end. We have a petition that has been signed by the members of this community and beyond. We have about 2,273 signatures that we've proposed in these documents right here. And as well, 323 are not. These are people who are not of the district but felt that they needed to let your presence be known that they were also very touched by my father's giving. The people who signed that, again, were not part of the San Marcos School District, wanted to make their presence known that Tomas Cuevas Jr., legacy of his kindness extended beyond San Marcos. My dad cherished and was very proud of this community. I respectfully request that you take this into consideration in naming the school after him, Tomas Cuevas Jr. Thank you.
I was reminded that since one more minute was spoken in favor, then we probably need the opposition, or vice versa.
I'm not feeling that strongly about that. I think since we're going to be short of 10 total comments, it would make sense to me that we allow the first 10 speakers to speak without regard to issue.
I still have one more to go.
You do? Okay.
Susan Satan, GT Teachers. You want to go get him from in there?
Sure.
There's
Susan,
two-
I think I'm running out on it. I'll wait. Well, I got 10 speakers.
Can you wait?
I'm listening.
I can have 10 speakers. I'll bring it up for vote again if I have to.
Sorry.
You're fine.
You may start.
Good evening, Board and members of the public.
Normally, I come to you as Susan Seaton, the president of the San Marcos Teachers Association, Texas State Teachers Association, but tonight I'm coming to you as a parent of a GT student in our district. It comes to my attention that when we had the budget deficit of 2011, 2012, when the budget cuts were made by the state, the board had to make very tough decisions. Some of those decisions included taking art teachers to halftime, taking GT teachers split between campuses, and the same with parent liaisons. As we have recovered from some of those budget deficits and we have seen our fund balance grow each year, we have not replaced those. We also got rid of our instructional technology specialist. We have not replaced those, even though most of what we're doing is going digital in the 21st century. Tonight I want to speak to you as a parent of a GT student. I have seen what the elementary GT program does for our students. You want to talk about individualized program, differentiation, all of the buzzwords that we use in education. When those elementary children went to middle school, they knew how to do a research project. They knew how to do independent research. They knew how to do a PowerPoint slide. They don't with the current system. I see less and less happening. I see our GT teachers being stretched so thin that they're only able to see kids in a classroom for a few minutes at a time. I believe as we want to talk about challenging our students and replacing with rigor, these students need that basis in elementary school. I think there's much more that we also need to do at the middle school and high school to get our students ready for the pre-AP classes, the AP classes, and the dual credit classes with the college. That starts at elementary school. I think tonight's discussion and hopeful decision leads us in that pathway. I think putting a GT teacher at every elementary school campus will start to restore a little of what was taken away in 2011, 2012 by necessity of the state. I don't see our GT program right now, at least for my daughter, working in the same way that it has before. Going into a middle school GT language arts classroom, not having the time with a GT teacher, not having the individualized projects, not having the research, not having the things that are going to prepare them not only for high school but for college, as a disservice to the children. I think we need to go back, start at the elementary school, get a full-time GT teacher at every elementary school, get them the help and the support they need to help our littlest students so they can become our best citizens. Thank you.
Is there a Brittany New or Brittany Moo? Lee, maybe?
Really hard to read.
It's hard to read.
Could be Lee.
1012 Allen Street.
Oh, now
are
everyone knows
you?
where you
But
live.
I wanted to speak on the issue of Narvaez.
Signed up.
Pro or con? Y'all tell me.
I think, I guess I'll make a motion, we'll try this. I'll make a motion to temporarily suspend the rules with regard to public comments, only to the extent to allow 10 total comments without regard to position or issue.
I'll second.
All in favor? 6 opposed, 1. So total, we've had 5, so you're saying 5 more?
Yeah, the ones that that were here before the 10
Well, we,
and lower, did we take any beyond 10?
yeah, we have quite a few under that were here
Okay.
before.
I guess those. So Todd was
Todd
one, I
Salmi?
think.
Todd Salmi?
We had never done that.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Was it 5 just on
I'm sorry?
the
The first
issue?
5, the first 5, same issue. Community conversations? Okay.
Good evening, trustees. My name is Todd Salmi. I live at 1301 Brown Street, and I originally planned on attending this meeting to give my personal comments as the parent of local kids in the school district on a couple different agenda items. But in that time, there's been conversations going on about tonight's meeting, and it seems as if the conversations here could be difficult. I think that's already starting to prove itself out. So instead, I'd like to use my public comment time to offer a brief prayer, and I invite those who'd like to participate to bow their heads. Almighty and loving God, we give you thanks that we live in a country where we have freedom of speech, where citizens can share their thoughts and opinions, where people can disagree and debate in forms such as this meeting this evening, and where we have the freedom of religion to express our beliefs, such as in this very prayer. Bless our freedom of speech so that we use this right wisely, as St. Paul advises in Thessalonians, to encourage and build up one another, not to tear each other down. In particular, I pray for wisdom and servant leadership of our school board members who are charged with the responsibility to make sure elected and appointed members reflect the values and standards of behavior for our district, and who are entrusted with leadership to make sure that our first and foremost priority is our students, all of our students, our children here in San Marcos. God, grant us the space to express diverse opinions and to listen to those that we may not want to hear. And God, when we speak words that cause harm, let us apologize and let those apologies be accepted. Remind us, because we easily forget, this isn't ultimately about board meetings or political wins or the so-called wisdom and importance of adults. Remind us that it was your son Jesus who, when asked about the kingdom of heaven, said, "When you welcome the children, you welcome me." Help us to speak with words of grace. Help us to live into your Holy Spirit who is at work in us and through us and in our San Marcos community in diverse ways. And help us to be more like Christ, to be more loving to all those around us. Amen.
Thank you. Alicia Guerrero. Oh, she already spoke. Okay, that's right. Jordan Buckley.
Hi, I'm Jordan Buckley. I live at 216 Wilson in San Marcos. I'm one of the co-founders of the San Marcos Cinema Club. We received the highest award from the Arts Commission this past year, and we're currently laboring on Lost River Film Festival, which is November 2nd through 5th. And we're glad we got a letter from Robert Redford encouraging us just 2 days ago and celebrating the work that we've been doing. Unfortunately, there have been events here in San Marcos that have not reflected well in our community recently. And I want to speak briefly about the Compact to Combat Hate, which, as people, if you read the paper on Wednesday, you saw that our mayor has committed to expressly reject all forms of bigotry and prejudice and white supremacy. And we're hopeful that he will do that. Because it is, right, it does deserve applause, I think. Because right now it hasn't yet happened. He found time on Wednesday to talk about the need to speak against these sort of things, but then Thursday and Friday he ducked reporters all day who asked for comment about why his ethics commissioner was retweeting anti-black jokes, why they were retweeting literally Patriot Front. For anyone that reads the New York Times, that is the organization that has been identified in Charlottesville. Patriot Front, it was their shield and their shirt that was worn by the murderer who drove his car over protesters, and that is the organization that Noemi Narvaez retweeted 1 week ago today. Initially, in the San Marcos Daily Record on Sunday, she made a statement saying, "Hey, these images may have been manipulated. It's too laborious for me to figure out if these are actually mine." The very next day is when she retweeted this Patriot Front. So already under scrutiny for potentially extreme comments online, the very next day she opts to repost a murderous white supremacist organization. I think it speaks to the judgment, and I also think it speaks to why there really needs to be a true vetting process here when we appoint people to SHAC, because these people decide policy for the welfare of our children. She finally confessed to KVU on Friday in a feature story that has since been picked up by the affiliate in Houston as well as in San Antonio. This is fastly becoming statewide news because our ethics commissioner and someone that has been appointed to SHAC has been tweeting and retweeting all sorts of incredibly obscene ideas that many of us in this room, most of us in this room, find terribly offensive and has no place in a position to decide policy for our children. To underscore that the vetting process was totally inadequate, literally 4 days before she was appointed to this board, on her Twitter, there was a message that said, "Deport all illegals, including dreamers." Well, there are many undocumented youth in San Marcos schools, and so 4 days before her appointment, she's saying that she wants to deport the very people who she's tasked with protecting their mental and physical health. Inside 20 seconds, I would just say, hate speech is not free speech. There are laws around that. And you cannot And lastly, I would say, please, everybody's looking at San Marcos, please make the judicious, prudent decision in this moment. We're calling on you to reset and revet. We need to start all over again because clearly the vetting process did not work because it allowed someone that posts things like she's been posting on there. So please reset, revet.
Roland Salcedo. Roland Salcedo.
Roland Salcedo, 211 Ebony Street. I am here to express to y'all, I am neither here for or against. I'm very grateful for that wonderful prayer that was said because that is exactly what we need right now, more than anything. One of the beautiful things about being an American is that we do, yes, have the freedom of speech. And yes, I agree with you, Mr. Buckley, that freedom of speech does not give you the right to degrade people in that manner. However, unfortunately, it is not your responsibility as a school board trustees. You are ensured with implementing and making sure that state mandated educational policies, looking out for the children of the education of our children as well as their well-being and protection. While keeping all that in mind, at the same time, mistakes were made, yes, on y'all's part. One, the selection process was not done the way it should have been done, and that was recorded in August, you know. Number two, it is unfortunate that Mr. Arredondo deliberately left her name off of the list. I do not support Naomi. I've known Naomi for a very long time. Me and her have never agreed on anything, but I think she's a wonderful person. And you know what? Whatever her beliefs are her beliefs, because she is an American citizen just like I am. And to charge yourselves with deciding who is, I guess, just. So then, if a group of the churches came in here and said that I am unfit to be on a committee because of my sexual orientation, that's not your charge. Then they have the right to believe that. The same way, you know what, I don't have the right to say that someone who has traditional, quote, traditional values, then you know what, then we're saying that no devout Catholic, no Southern Baptist, no Jehovah's Witness, no Jewish member, no Muslim member, none of those people are fit to serve on the on any committee as well because of their beliefs. And that is the one beautiful thing, and that's why commissions and committees and boards are created, for the exchange of ideas and information. It gives us the opportunity to be able to communicate on a level that we normally would not be able to. If you're a Republican and you're always around Republicans, well, you're going to believe what the Republicans believe in. But until you cross that line, until you engage in conversation and with an open mind and an open heart, hey, you never know, something beautiful could come out, somebody could be educated, somebody could learn something that they needed to know. And that's to love one another and treat each other with respect. Thank you.
Thank you. See if I've got 10.
We're at 9 now.
We're at 9?
This will be the 9th.
Yeah.
This will be the 10th?
No, this would be the 9th.
Alyssa Garza, creating a healthy school environment for SMCISD staff and students. Two, three.
Can you hear me? Let me know when you want me to start.
7, 8, 9, 10. I have 10.
This is 9.
This is 9.
These are the 10 that have spoken.
But the first ones we split 2. On number 2, we split half and half. Do you want me to sit down?
Go ahead.
Okay.
You can,
The rules mid.
go ahead.
Go ahead.
All right. My name is Alyssa Garza, and I live at 755 River Road. And I'm speaking on the shack. So, according to the School Health Advisory Council Guide for Texas School Districts, which was published by the Department of State Health Services, it reads, successful Texas shacks take the time to plan and implement a recruitment process. And this PDF is available online, by the way. I, along with other members of my district, that's Margie's district, hi Margie, feel that the board should reset and revet shack membership in order to ensure it represents key segments of the community who will provide positive and productive leadership. It is my hope that the board will re-strategize their recruitment efforts and process to ensure that all applicants understand the values of the district, aimed at providing all learners, regardless of citizenship status, sexuality, religion, and gender expression, with safe, nurturing, and inclusive learning environments. Of course, I value the time and effort taken by those currently appointed to the shack, but if the point of serving in the shack is to do what is best for all students, I would hope that they would not mind reapplying and undergoing a more thorough selection process. So basically, let's reset and revet and make sure that the foundation set for the shack is a strong one, to ensure that everything that we do is with the student's best interest at heart. And that's it.
Thank you. Last speaker.
Do we have 10 speakers?
Yes,
We're at
that's
9.
10.
Well, that was 10.
Last speaker, Craig Young. I'm sorry?
We've had how many speakers against?
We can't take questions from the audience, no.
It was a question.
It doesn't matter, we have one more. Craig Young.
We have one more.
Craig Young.
Thought we had 10.
Did you try to make a comment? I'm just kidding. Is he here?
Is Craig in here?
I'm not Craig, but I think I'm being asked to speak on in his place.
Okay.
That's not right.
No. We have to follow the board rules.
We're going based on these cards.
My card is up.
But it's not the top 10, so
You weren't in the top 10. In the top 10, we said,
I think we're good.
point of order. Order. I'm sorry, I can't hear you because too many people are talking.
My card is up there. It's Jonathan Sines.
4, 5.
Yeah, we have to go.
And I think we're done.
No, because we cut one in half, though. We haven't had 30 minutes.
We've had 10.
We haven't had the 30 minutes of our to speak.
We've had 10 speakers.
We've had 27 minutes.
We've had 10 speakers.
We-
And there's
the motion
no
was
equity.
to-
That's right, it was 10 speakers. We had 10 speakers.
We have never before ever said that we have to have equal number of speakers on any subject. That has never happened.
I'm saying it. Just to be clear, the motion that I made was that we suspend the rules to allow 10 total speakers.
And so
We're at 10, right?
I've got 11
People have
cards.
spoken.
I've got 11 cards already.
Is that right? We've had 10. Now that we have to go to the
that
11.
came back up, that
Craig Young
at their
was
time and
gone.
have to come back up and finish their speech.
Two of them that we cut in half, they could finish those two, and that would be it.
Well, then you have to allow one more for the person who snuck
We'll
in.
never finish with this.
Yeah, I don't think so.
We've got 11 speakers.
Let's just end it.
It's up to the chair.
If it's up to the chair, it's over.
All right. Moving on.
We're going to move forward. Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Going to break in a closed session. We're breaking in a closed session.
We thank you for your participation. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Please.
You have to direct the police officer to remove. You can call order again.
I'm calling order. Anybody talking after I call order will be removed. If you continue speaking out of turn, you will be removed. The board is going to go into executive session. Thank you.